Tell me about the beauty of working in a karkhana. Tell me the beauty. Tell me the beautiful relationships that you've had while producing your art. In a way, I like to, because in a way you are so open about this style of painting, and that about your collaborations with the other artists. So I just want to ask you, I think there should be more collaborations like this. I think there should be more, but nobody is out there
Well,
explaining the good side of it. Can you explain? Can you, if I asked you why is it if my question to you was, why is collaboration important, right? The name is a title question, why is it important, but for you specifically, why is it
we
important?
teach each other things each day.
Articulate
And
that,
it's not
explain
just
that.
me teaching them or them teaching me. I mean, it's a multiple, intersection of learning, you know.
How?
So sometimes Rakesh is struggling to paint something, and Dalpat can come in and say, no, no, Rakesh, your figure is wrong. Draw the figure this way. And Dalpat will bring out a piece of paper
Yeah.
and sketch it in a whole different way. And it opens Rakesh's eyes to the way he can create the figure doing what I've asked,
And how does it how
in
does
a
it
way that he did not conceive. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a learning process. And, vice versa. There are times that Dalpat will paint a miniature background. This happened recently with our Nayaka suite that we made. And he did a beautiful job on all of them. And then on the very last one,
Yeah.
it was just, I want to say it was just horrendous. It was horrendous color choices. It was just like really garish and ugly. And I don't know what happened, but Dalpat really sort of botched it up. And it went to Rakesh to fix. And, we debated, and it was me, Dalpat, Rajesh, I think, even joined us. It was all, how are we going to fix these colors? Because these colors are just clashing and looking,
Yeah.
vomitous, I want to use the word. And, but we came to some conclusion about how to fix that background, and it ended up being absolutely beautiful. And I don't think any one of us could have solved that.
Yeah.
It took all four. It took Rajesh, who's not even a miniaturist, but he's smart and he's an artist,
Yeah.
and Dalpat and Rakesh and I all talking together to make something work. And I think that's the strength in our work, in that, one of the things I see my function is my function is to find out what are people good at,
Yeah.
and then encourage them to do what they're good at, and then pair that with what other people are good at,
Yeah.
so that we end up with beautiful miniature. Shankar Kumawat is, I think, a superb border painter, and he does borders in, regular pigments. He also does them in gold. He does everything freehand. He uses no traces,
Yeah.
doesn't do any preliminary drawings. He just pulls out his brush, his his squirrel hair brush,
Yeah.
which I think he still has, and he just like paints it like a master. But if I ask Shankar to do a miniature painting, he's not nearly so talented. It's
Yeah.
nothing that I would get very excited about.
When you have an exhibition and people ask you what your work is about the what is it about, how do you, I give you full 5-10 minutes, just can you explain what your work is about? Because in that sense, it's so many things, but I've always found it tough to articulate what your work is about. People do ask me, hey, they know that
With
I know
with
you.
the miniatures, initially
How do you
I was trying
contextualize?
to express.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
With the miniatures,
Yeah.
initially it was about telling my story and my partner's Tommy's story about our early adventures in India when we first came together as a couple in 2000 and started traveling.
Yeah.
So those very early miniatures, like The Secret Life of Waswo X Waswo, were just reflections on things we had experienced, but it was not so much the things we experienced, but the emotions that were involved,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like one of the miniatures that we did in the Secret Life set was called The Sleepless Night, and it depicted me in a guest room sort of crouching, late at night and holding my head in my hands. And outside, somebody was being murdered in one room, and in another room, somebody was being, stolen, and in another room, somebody was being
It's
raped.
chaos.
And the chaos of, this is not the beautiful city that people imagine it is.
Yeah.
It has an underbelly. It has an underbelly. Now, it may not have such an underbelly anymore, but when I first came to Udaipur, that was very much true.
Yeah.
I think people are less desperate here now. The economy has greatly improved.
Yeah.
So, there's been a great deal of relaxation on that sort of mercenary quality in the tourist bazaar.
Yeah.
And it's very deceptive because many times tourists will come and they'll say, "Oh, everybody's so nice here. Everybody's so friendly."
Yeah.
They meet you and they invite you into your house and they give you chai. And I'm like, yeah, that's their job. That's their job. That's what they do,
Yeah.
So the miniatures were telling emotions and they were telling stories. And they were also telling stories about how we were interacting with Indians, how Indians interacted with me. A lot of them, I would say the vast, vast, vast majority of our miniatures are self-deprecating humor. They make fun of me. They make fun of the so-called Orientalist or Topiwala, as we call him, or the Fedora man.
Yeah.
He's always, sort of this bumbling fool, stumbling into situations he knows nothing about.
Why do you keep referring to him as the fool? You've said this 4 times in this last interview. In this interview, you've mentioned to this character as the fool.
A fool within the context where he is. Okay.
Explain that, please.
More or less, he might be a very educated and intelligent person somewhere else, but he's a fool within the context. So you can look at the recent, extraction from Afghanistan if you want to look at local politics.
Yeah.
I mean, many of the American soldiers there were not fools.
Yeah.
Highly intelligent, highly trained, graduated from good universities, all of that.
Yeah.
But they were fools within the environment because they didn't understand the culture. Okay. So that's the way I'm using the term fool.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm an idiot.
No, I didn't mean that. Yeah.
I'm not a genius, but I'm not an idiot either. So.
Yeah. No. Okay. So yeah. So it's this character, and it's this, and it's amazing. You've kind of like made a cartoon of yourself, in a good way.
Well, yeah, he's become a cartoon, and we actually made a comic book. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that.
But when we did the exhibition Confessions of an Evil Orientalist in 2011 at Gallery Espas, we actually made a comic book that was a free handout to visitors at the opening. It's become sort of a collectible. It was so popular, we had to make a second printing a few years later.
Yeah.
And basically what we did is we took images from the miniatures and arranged them as a comic book and put thought bubbles and speaking bubbles, and we told a narrative.
Yeah.
And then it ended with the 101 Confessions of the Evil Orientalist,
yeah,
which was a text-based work, which was part of that show,
yeah,
which reads like a poem. And, this was way before the whole idea of white privilege was very prevalent, or the idea of confessing to your white privilege. But I just felt that I needed to say things that needed to be said. So I was actually in Bangkok. I sat down at the kitchen table and I started making out a list, like, well, what am I guilty of as a foreigner in India? And the list started with simple things like, I've shouted at the laundry ladies for breaking my buttons upon the rocks.
And you have guilt. You have guilt about that. You regret all of this.
Yes, and there were 101 of these confessions. But
Wow.
The interesting thing about it, it starts out very personal.
Yeah.
And very white, I would say.
Yeah.
But in the middle of I call it a poem actually, in the middle of the list, there is sort of a twist. And suddenly you start realizing that some of the things I'm confessing to, you might scratch your head and say, why is he confessing to this?
Yeah.
Why is he confessing to the fact that he slept through slumbering villages on a midnight train or whatever like that. I mean, it doesn't sound like much of a confession.
It's like a fond memory.
Um, yeah, and it's not really a confession,
Yeah,
but perhaps it talks of privilege of the person on the sleeper compartment of the train as compared to the village.
yeah,
Um, but the reason the inversion was there was because I wanted readers and I wanted Indians who read this
yeah,
to realize that they also had privilege. And so, some people got it, some people did not. There were a few reviewers who just took it as Waswo confesses to his privilege and his
yeah.
Orientalism. And
It
then
was,
other people went a little deeper and realized what I was actually trying to do.
yeah. It's easy to reduce.
So,
It is very easy to
um,
reduce the idea into something very basic. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So this is really amazing. It's really interesting that you have the ability to be so honest. That's something special. You know that, right? You like it's a good quality in you.
I have ability. I mean, I think that was part of my coming out as being gay when I was young. My
Yeah,
parents always taught me honesty. They said never lie, never tell an untruth, be honest.
yeah,
So I thought, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm gay. I'm telling you that I'm gay.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
why should I hide that? Honesty has been
yeah,
sort of an ethos of mine, and it very much, if there's anything that sets me off with my collaborators or the people I work with,
yeah.
it's when I feel that they're lying to me.
True.
Okay.
Yeah,
They can do a bad job, totally forgivable. We can repaint it. They can be slow.
yeah,
We don't make a deadline, totally forgivable.
yeah,
But when I get the feeling that they're telling me lies,
yeah.
and they're such bald-faced lies that they're almost insulting to me,
That
it's
hurts.
like, you really think I'm going to believe this?
Yeah,
Really sets me off because I put a high value on
yeah.
honesty,
True,
you
true,
know?
true.
Um,
That hurts, man. That's like congratulations. You're human.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you've not become a corporate robot.